Hi, I'm Miriam Joy and welcome to my studio. Today we're working on our spooky spiderweb centerpiece. That's fun to say 3 times fast. This is a simple project. We're just going to be using some crochet thread and adding some things to it to turn out with this wonderful centerpiece for your Halloween party or season. Let's get started. To make our little kind of Peek O Boo spider web, guys, I look for little tiny Halloween pieces. And I found these little 2 guys at the thrift store, and I really like them a lot. They also had different things at the Dollar Tree or 99-cent store that you could put in there. But you've got to think about how big you want to make it and how big your little guys are, so that you know what type of balloons you need to use. Now, another thing I did is I went and got some candle holders, and I went to the thrift store and looked for these, and these kind of really nice because you can use these both ways and they will hold those up. If you can't find any with the bigger kind of scooped bottoms, you can use just the regular size, but I do like, you know, to use the different sizes. And I really would like to do 3, but I'm just going to be doing 2 probably with this set. Another thing I look for at the thrift store when I go is crochet thread. And there's usually a lot of it at places because it's a kind of an old-fashioned thing, but they still do have it because I had to find my orange. I think I finally found mine at Michael's. Walmart even carries some of the crochet thread. It's coming back a little bit more. It doesn't matter what size it is. There is a real thin, and then there's a thicker. I found out that the thicker was a little bit harder for me to work with, but I'll tell you what I think really helped. The first thing we want to do is pick the size of balloon we need, and I'm going to do a pear-shaped, and we're going to blow that up the size we want it. And I am not great at blowing up balloons, so we got my assistant blowing it up here. And one thing you really want to make sure is that you tie it super tight so that the air doesn't leak out overnight or while it's drying. That is the one thing that I am going to tell you, and this is going to be fun here. And to do mine, I like to use Mod Podge. It doesn't matter. This is regular Mod Podge. There's so many Mod Podge things now that it's not even funny. People have the home remedies with glue and different things like that, but what they don't realize is that the Mod Podge, and I always say it wrong and I always get corrected, is a sealer and a glue. So even if you made it with glue, it's not quite the same, and that's why, because of the sealer, you can also use food off of items that have been done with the Mod Podge. So that is one thing to know. You can use matte, you can use satin, you can use gloss. I don't care. It's a personal opinion what you decide to use. Now, getting this on is kind of a trick. And one thing you want to never do is shake your Mod Podge, because it, and I'm saying it wrong again, Mod Podge, because it gets bubbles in it. And I'm going to use an old pie tin, and this for me is about the easiest way I know to do it. I've tried putting it on a bobbin, I've tried rolling it through things, and I always come back to doing it this way. So I like to pull quite a bit of this off at a time, and it can get messy here. And if you need to add just a little bit of water, you can, but not much at all. And what you're going to do is take this and run this through, and their Mod Podge, and it would absorb just a little bit better with just a tad bit of water, which I have not put in mine yet. And we're going to just start to apply this on to our balloon. And I wish, honestly, I could figure out a little bit better way to do this. Not quite as messy. And I've got my rag over here because you want to make sure that you've got this covered really well. I've got a little bit of water here. And like I said, just a little bit. Just enough to make that move through there. And one of the most asked questions I get on my videos is, how come that theirs isn't holding up, or how come different things like that. And I always tell you, use the Mod Podge, and you need to make sure that you put enough of this on. Don't put such a little amount that there's no support behind it. I've got quite a bit of string on it. So that's another thing, is they don't put enough string onto this. And so you kind of go all over this thing. Now, once we start getting some of this on, sometimes it's harder and I slip more, and I don't know if it's the size of the balloon or the thread. This one is honestly going on easier today for me, but some days it does not go on this easy. And what I found that sometimes is nice to do is get a base laid, kind of like I have now, and let that first layer dry, because this starts wiggling all around, and get it hard, and then come in and do it again with a second coating, and that really helps hold that in place, and it's easier to do, because see how these strings are starting to get all in one place. So if you do that, you've kind of made a base. The next day it should be dry, and then you can continue going till you have a good, nice base of all of the strings. And there's a couple places where it's messy, but we're going to cover this up. And I just put this on a clothespin and hang it on something for this to dry. Now, when this is all dry, you simply pull this part out here, if it hasn't already started to deflate, and cut the balloon a little bit, and it'll crackle and pull away from your balloon. So here is a bigger one I've done, and sometimes it is hard to get it off of that balloon area. And if you hear these crunchy noises and everybody starts to freak out because they don't know what that is, that's your balloon pulling away from your string. And don't worry about if you can't get it up there, because by the time we cut the hole in the side, and I thought this would really be cute for some of the solar things that they have at Dollar Tree, to be really, really cute. So there's all kinds of fun things you can put in them just by making them bigger or smaller. So go ahead, get that part done, get that done nice and dry, and then we'll start assembling it. Here is one I have done, and I want to show you. See, this is, people say, and it's just soft. This one's hard. This one is a lot harder, and this one is just not. So make sure you get the Mod Podge all over it. Make sure you have enough string. If I had done probably a second layer or 2 or 3 times the amount of string I have on this one. You can always go back and put another layer over that as it's drying. These are my oval craft templates. They're at miriamjoy.com. I have all shapes and sizes, and so we're going to make an oval, and that is how I do it. If you don't have one, you could print one out on a piece of paper and trace around the outside of the paper, but we're looking for an oval that's big enough that we can get our character in and kind of see him as well. So, and make sure we have it as straight up and down as we can get it. And I kind of look for parts that aren't perfect, that if I need covered up or anything, like these are a little bit more up and down, I'm going to get rid of those and put those inside my oval, so I cut them out. And I'm trying to draw a line. I usually have my white charcoal pencil, and I was trying this grease pencil instead to see if that would work better or not. It's just the other one has a better tip. But just to give you kind of an idea on the oval shape there. And also this little guide on top, that's probably where your stem of your balloon was, and we're going to cut this out. And I am using snips, and I love these. We do carry them at miriamjoy.com because they're a small scissor, but really for heavy duty cutting. And they're really, really wonderful. Now I have another little end here that didn't get anything on him. Now I had put enough Mod Podge on this that I have a skin here. If you don't want that, I have a little wider brush that you can kind of scruff it up with. But what I'm going to do is I take some black spray paint, 98 cents at Walmart, and I'm just going to lightly puff it in there and kind of blacken it just to give it that Halloween feel. Walmart usually carries some little tiny ribbon or trim, and they usually will have it in the holiday section that it is. So you can look there, and also Dollar Tree a lot of times will carry some as well. I found this little rickrack and I loved how it went around the purple one, but I don't think it shows up as much on the orange ones. So I'm going to try doing with the diamond ribbon. I'm going to try doing around it with that, and if I don't have it the size I want it, I just cut it. So I'm cutting this to one single strand because 2 doesn't bend well. And we're going to just put it around the edges. And I'm going to glue a little bit. Now remember, the fat part is the bottom, the skinnier part is the top. And we're always going to start down here right now. And I'm only just going to do this just a little ways. I do have some that is adhesive, but I want to make sure that it stays on. And if there's nothing right where that part is, just go over the top of where it should be onto the next one. So none of the little pieces of string should show up. You can use your thumb to kind of adjust that as you're working your way here. And I cut my diamond ribbon a lot to use it with what I want, what shape I want. Now make sure we can get that turn in there. But I do like the brightness of that. It gives it that little pop. And if you have one little string stick out somewhere that you don't want, we'll just cut it off. That's okay. I'm almost all the way around here. So I'm just gonna cut that. So I'm going to finish that up right there, and then we'll start with our ribbon on top. I kind of look at the different colors of ribbon I have and see what I want to do, because I'm going to use a different one on top here, and I'm going to use a different one on bottom, and see all of them that they all go together. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a little bow on top. And I'm probably going to do 2 loops on each side. When you do the loops, you twist and pull it out and twist every time you hit that middle. I tried to do it with 3 and I do not like it with 3. And you also, instead of cutting the little tails, if you wanted to make the long tail part, but I like the little tails and it was easier to do the longer ones that way. So I'm going to wrap this with my Chanel stem here and pull that out, and we'll glue that on. So when I'm doing all of these, I'm going to think about everything that matches here to make sure my ribbon matches up. And I like this because it kind of has a little feel of spider webs. And I'm going to just tie a little bow, probably 2 loops. On this project, I decided that 3 was too many, and you don't want this very big because my egg is pretty small here that I'm working with. And I'm going to do, you twist each time you get to the middle and pull these out. And I'm going to do some long ones as well. And I'm going to tie this with my pipe cleaner. So I've got this guy tied. We're going to stick down his ends flat. And we're going to hot glue him on. I turned my glue gun on to low temp so I don't get burned. I found out that probably 80 to 90% of the time I could have it on low temp, and I don't do it, and I get burned. So now I'm just going to take these ends, and I'm going to glue them right underneath our bow, and we're going to kind of ruffle these and bring them down the sides. So like 1 there. I'm probably going to try and put 3 on this side and maybe 2 on the other side. I kind of set my bow off to the side a little bit instead of straight up and down. Unless you're OCD, and then you're going to probably want it straight up and down. Okay, we're going to cut that guy there. Aren't those colors really nice together there? I really like the color with that orange. And now we're going to do the same on this side. And a little second one here. And then we're going to trim him off there. Isn't that cute? I really like that. So I'm going to put some little of our garland or our picks. They're, I don't know the names of these. I always try to find them, and they call them a garland or a pick, and you can find them in the garlands, but they're kind of like a berry. Sometimes they're harder to find in one form, and you can find them in the other. And I'm going to do 3 little ones on each side. So I'm kind of cutting these apart. I think that's kind of too long for one. I'll use that as a smaller one. I'll kind of split those up. And one more longer one here, and maybe we'll just put one in the middle and use it all up. I like to use up, but I like to have it as well. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle. And this also kind of just gives it life and form. It just kind of gives it movement, I guess, is kind of what I want to say here. And I'm going to, if you don't think it's too long or anything, you also can kind of bend it and twist it a little bit. Let's see if we want to leave that middle one that long. So I'm going to finish the other side up, and then we'll add our spider. Now we've got all those glued on. I found these little rings this year, and I love these. They're nice and sparkly. Because our ribbon is purple, I'm going to put an orange spider on there, and I kind of want it just setting out. We've got him showing really well. Got one more little guy. We'll just put him in the back. And we've used all of those up. Now, you can see how that's starting to slide and everything, and that's okay. I wanted to put spiders, since this looked like a spider web, and we've got the purple because I think that shows up better than the orange does on here. You also could use other colors if you wanted to. It doesn't need to be these. You can use just the regular black spiders or whatever you wanted. But I really liked the sparkle and shine of these. Of course, being a girl, that's probably why. We love anything that's shiny and sparkly and glittery. So I'm going to just put 3 on. Kind of keep them in an odd number, and I want to kind of see where I think I should want them. So I'm going to put 1 here, and I think I'm going to put like 1 here and 1 down there, so that we've got them a little bit spread out. And I'm going to turn my glue gun up to hot here because we're going to work on the fillers in a minute here, and I need that a little bit hotter. Okay, now that those are on, got that part of that ring in there. There. Now this is side heavy because of where we put our bow, but at Dollar Tree they have the glitter vase fillers for Halloween. They've had them the last couple of years. If you can't find them there, you can find them at your local craft store, and they have them in seasonal colors. Now what I'm going to be doing with these is we're going to actually be building a base to kind of set our little ghost on, and I want to kind of see how many I need in here to put him, stand him up in there so that he can stand and we can see him. Otherwise he goes too far to the bottom. So I'm going to do a single layer. I'm just going to hot glue them on, probably one at a time, until I just get this layer filled in down there. And kind of the way I do this is I hot glue the ball and put the ball in and just keep building around that until I get that all built up. So once I have the balls kind of built up in there, we're going to hot glue this little guy. You also could put a little bit of E6000 on him to hold him in place nice and good. And we've got to get him in there and stand him up and keep him moved towards the front. And that can be a little bit tricky sometimes. And I think I have him. I'm going to set my finger in there for just a second. There. Now, I just take some more of the glitter balls and I just stick them in there around it. You could glue it in if you don't want them to move, but I think that's fine. You can put in the smaller ones, the bigger ones towards the back, whatever you think you need to use to kind of just fill that in. Now another thing you could use is a little bit of moss if you thought you needed it. There's a lot of options that you could do different if you thought you wanted something different, but we don't want to cover him up either. So we want to make sure that we can see him really well, and that just kind of adds to the design. And once we're done with that, I am going to put a little bit of E6000 on my candle holder. And then I'm also on the outside going to put a little bit of hot glue. One is for short-term stability and one is for long-term stability. So you don't need as much as the hot glue. It's just going to hold until the other glue kind of takes place. So we want to make sure that everything is the way we want it to be. The straight up and down, that your ribbon's to the side, that your centerpiece is straight. Isn't that cute already? He is really cute. And we're going to set him aside and let him finish drying there. And I'm going to go ahead and look at my ribbons. I was really thinking about this. And I also have that. I think that is too much orange. I have a smaller one, but I ran out of him. So, but I think the ribbon being different is good. So I think I'm going to stick with what I had picked originally. It's kind of got everything I want in it. So I've got to think about, because of my wording, which way to cut everything. Now we want this big enough, but not so big that it takes away from our centerpiece. It adds to it. Just a tad bit smaller here. You also could use a purple ribbon, which would really be pretty as well. So I am going to tie this on with a long pipe cleaner, our Chanel stem. We're going to cut our ribbon at an angle. And depending on how long, how tall your candlestick holder, you can make the tails longer or shorter. That's up to you. And I am going to just tie this around. And since I have enough room, I went around and I'm going to bring it to the front and tie it under my bow so I don't have that showing. Cover that up. And we can do all kinds of fun things with this. We could put another spider in the middle of the bow. I have some little pumpkins. I don't quite think they're the right color of orange. We could put there. We could put some more of these orange ones in the middle, or leave it just like that. It's really all up to you how you think it should look. I also put a little bow on this one because I was covering up the little part that I needed to that kind of showed up where the two tails met, but I don't think that shows at all. But if I wanted to, I have like a little black bow I could do there, but I really don't think that needs it. But that's something else you could use as well. So there's all kinds of things to do. Just make it your own and have fun with it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Give us a thumbs up, like and share our videos so we can continue to grow. God bless.